Hi guys, I just wanted to just start welcoming people onto the line because we have a couple of people that have called in. So for everyone out there, this is Melissa Newber. I'll be moderating the call tonight. I'm over here at the Bully Project, and we're very excited to have Marty and Dan here from Facing History and ourselves for tonight's call. I just want to let you know we're going to be starting in about 10 minutes, and I just want to let you guys know if you're on the line right now and you want to shout out where you're calling from. We'd love that.
Carolina, Angel, South Carolina.
Hey,
South Carolina.
Rick Daniels,
Ashley,
Washington, D.C.
California.
California and D.C.
I think
Rick Daniels, Washington, D.C., the Friends of Rick Daniels.
All right.
Hi.
Thanks for joining.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Welcome, Baltimore.
Oakland, California.
All right. Hello, Oakland.
Danbury, Connecticut.
Hi, Connecticut. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, so guys, for everyone who just came on the line, I just want to let you know I'm Melissa Newber. We're here with the Bully Project, and we'll be getting on the call in about, we're going to let everyone kind of take their time to get on the call, so we'll probably be starting about 5 minutes after 7. So if you're just joining the call, please shout out where you're calling from and what your name is.
Ashley, Berkeley, California.
Hi,
Hey, Ashley. Welcome.
Anyone else new out there?
Hello, I just entered my number.
Hi.
Well, welcome.
Hi,
Where are you from?
I'm from Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, wait, Canada.
Yeah. So where's everyone else from?
Washington, D.C.
Excellent.
We have a lot. We're kind of all over the country, but the call is coming from New York.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So am I probably the only Canadian?
I don't know. You have to ask everyone out there. Do we have any Canadians in here?
Oh, I lived in Canada for 10 years. This is Rick Daniels, Washington, D.C., and I've lived from West Coast to East Coast, Vancouver, all the way to Toronto.
Awesome. Good.
Cool. Yes, so for all of you guys who are just joining the call, once again, my name is Melissa, and I'm here with the Bully Project. We're going to be waiting a couple minutes for everyone to get on the call, but I also wanted to remind you that we'll have a Q&A session after, which you can either use your touch tone to press *6 to line up for a call to ask on the line, or you can tweet us your questions at Expert Series. So it's using the hashtag Expert Series, which is one word. So
Okay.
for all of you guys who just got on the line, just call out where you're calling from.
Las Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa from Los Gatos, California.
All right.
California.
California and Las Vegas. Welcome.
Mill Valley, California.
All right, Mill Valley.
New Mexico.
Arlington, Massachusetts.
Hey, Arlington. I think I heard in New Mexico there.
Yeah, it's Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Gary. Gary from New Mexico. Cool. So if anyone is just joining us, what's good? You guys can shout out where you're calling from. We're excited to hear what part of the world you guys are calling from. Anyone new? So once again, we have Facing History and ourselves here on the line tonight. We have Marti Tippens, Murphy, and Dan Alba. We're very excited to have them. We'll be talking about using Bully in the classroom, and we'll get started in a little while. I think in about 4 minutes we'll try to get started. We just want to make sure all the callers are on the line. So if you guys can all just hang in there, we'll hand it over. So if anyone has just joined the line, please shout out where you're calling from. Anyone new? So I also wanted to remind you guys that we'll have a Q&A at the end after Marty and Dan are finished speaking, and you guys can pose your questions by pressing *6 on your touchtone, or you can tweet us your questions using the hashtag Expert Series, which is one word.
Welcome to the call.
Okay, everyone. Okay. Welcome to the call, everyone. This is Melissa Newber here with the Bully Project. an outreach coordinator, and I'm very excited to have you all on the call. If you guys, like I said, we're kind of waiting here for a couple more minutes. If you'd like to shout out where you're calling from, we'd love that.
Tell us your name, too. Say your name and where you're from.
Hello, I'm Glenn Proctor from Bethesda, Maryland.
All right. Hey, Bethesda.
Hi. Thank you
I'm
for...
Heather?
Yeah, Heather from Toronto, Canada.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Jeremy Harmon from New Jersey.
Hey, Jeremy, welcome.
Rachel Pipitone from Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
All right. That's, I think, our third Canadian tonight. Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome. Okay, so you guys, my name is Melissa Newber, and I just want to get started here. We're very excited to have you all on the call tonight. We'll be joined by Facing History and ourselves, Marti Tippens Murphy and Dan Alba, who will be speaking on using bullying in the classroom. I just wanted to, before we get started, I wanted to remind you that we'll have a question and answer after Marti and Dan are finished speaking. And to line up for that, you can press *6, and we'll take you in the order that you dial in, or you can tweet us your questions using the hashtag #ExpertSeries. So without further ado, I'm going to actually turn the floor over to Bully Director Lee Hirsch right now, and he's going to be introducing tonight's speakers. And I just wanted to let you know that at this time I'll be muting you guys. We can hear Lee speak. Thanks. Welcome, Lee.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm really excited for tonight's call. For the past 2 years, we've been working really hard to try and change the conversation around bullying around the country and around the world, and we've been so fortunate to have incredible partners, Facing History and ourselves, that have really led the way in how to teach this film and how to maximize its impact. And we launched an initiative called 1 Million Kids, where our goal was to screen this and impact 1 million kids through their schools. And today, we're really, really excited and pleased because well over 3 million students have participated so far. And that's, in part due to the hard work of Facing History and educators like yourselves. So I'm really pleased to introduce you guys to Marti Tippens Murphy and Dan Alba of FHO for our call tonight. Those of you unfamiliar with FHO stands for Facing History and Ourselves. It's an organization that for over 30 years has offered teachers and students ways to confront prejudice, fear, and violence. They've played a crucial role in helping us develop and implement the resources to screen the film, and have organized screenings, summits, learnings, and they'll tell you more about it, across the country, including Cincinnati, Los Angeles, Memphis, Oakland, San Francisco, using resources that we've created together, but in large part the incredible guide to teaching bully that Facing History created for educators. Marti has been with FHO since 1997. As director, she provides overall leadership for organizational advancement in the Los Angeles area. Marti has played an essential role in developing materials and implementing bully and bully project resources across Los Angeles County area. Dan Alba joined FHO in 1994 after years of teaching social studies, government economics, psychology, and U.S. history in the Los Angeles Unified School District. Dan is now FHO's Senior Program Associate and organizes amazing bully screenings and discussions across Los Angeles, opening up dialogue on bullying in schools and informing parents, educators, and students of steps that they can take to create change in their schools. So without any further ado, I welcome you both and thank you so much for participating in tonight's call.
Hi, thank you, Lee. This is Marti. Hello, everyone. Dan, you want to say hello?
Hi, this is Dan. Hello.
That was a really wonderful introduction, and I really would want to echo the partnership that we've had with the Bully Project in really making a difference in young people's lives. And it's great to hear so many people from across the country and Canada on the call. Facing History is an international organization. Our headquarters is in Boston, where the folks there also were very critical in developing the study guide. We have 8 offices in the U.S. We have one in Toronto, and literally teachers from all over the globe have accessed our materials and resources through our website. And so it's just a pleasure to have you all on the call this evening. And just to give a little bit more framing about why Facing History has been involved in this project is that we are an organization that since 1976 has been helping teachers with tools and strategies and content to really help young people find their moral voice and develop their critical thinking and become compassionate and engaged in their own world. We have dealt with themes of in-group and out-group and peer pressure and conformity and obedience, bystanding, as well as standing up for others and compassion and empathy through our case study approach, and which is why we've really been a good partner, I think, for the Bully film, because it is also really giving kids access to look at these themes as they play out in their own lives. And Facing History is really all about prevention. It's about giving kids the tools that they're going to need and the language and the self-esteem to be able to speak up and stand up for themselves and for other people. And we know from statistics that in about 50% of instances where kids speak up about bullying, it actually stops. And so our goal tonight is really to give you some ideas about how you can introduce bringing the film to a school and involve the whole school community in that. And the goal would be really so that you have the strategies and ideas and tools to think about how to do that in a very effective way, which would make sure that it is a very safe way for kids so that they are able to be prepared to view the film, that the adults have carefully thought through what the goals will be, that they have really looked at what the school culture is and the particular needs and concerns of the school, and that there's opportunities for discussion and dialogue and follow-through after the viewing of the film. And so, I just wanted to share with you a couple of the things that we've done in Los Angeles, where we're based. And really, I would have to say that the response to the opportunity of bringing Bully to schools has been really astounding. I mean, we've been working with schools for many years, and there are a lot of things that they're interested in and want to do, but really this has so touched a nerve because of the concerns around bullying and it being a resource. So we actually started a couple of years ago with doing summits with the film, and it started with a leadership summit where we brought together 25 schools, and each school we invited to think about who are the leaders on their campus, the stakeholders that needed to be part of thinking about the film. So it was administrators, teachers, students, and parents, and came together with us on a Saturday to watch the film, have a panel discussion, but really think about their own campuses and what are the strategies and tools that they would want to have to bring the film to their school. So that was really the launch of our work school by school, as schools have started to bring this film to their campuses in a school-wide effort. So, one of the things I just really want to stress is that it's so important that adults watch this film first, that you think about with the school that you're working with, who are some folks that you want to be sure to have watch it, and think about inviting some parents and teachers and administrators and support staff, to watch it, and watch both versions. There's a middle school version and a full feature-length version, and think about which one is going to be most appropriate for your school. And depending on your role in the school, make sure that you have an understanding of what the school culture and needs are. So that's sort of just a kind of 30,000-foot overview of some of the things we want to talk with you about tonight. And I would like to turn it over now to Dan, if I might, to drill down a little more on some of the specifics of some strategies that we found to be effective.
Thanks, Marty. the guide to the film Bully, and it's subtitled Fostering Empathy and Action in Schools. To foster empathy, how do you do that? And it does speak largely to the culture of the school, the experience of kids, and the recognition that these incidents of bullying do occur. I think that when coming to a school that has issues, it's not good enough just to have an assembly or to have a speaker and then do a checkoff that we address the issue. Like Marty said, this really involves all stakeholders. We're talking about teachers, we're talking about students, we're talking about parents, even administrators, and that some action plan, comprehensive. It has to be intentional. It has to be strategic and well executed. And those conversations that you have about what you hope to get from this experience at the school to involve all stakeholders, you send a very powerful message that this is an issue that impacts all of us. And that has to be mirrored in the way in which it's presented. Often we don't prepare students for talking about difficult issues. Many times teachers feel that, I really don't I don't have the tools, or I don't have the language or the approach to even deal with some of these adolescent issues that sometimes they're in their own world and they'll work it out themselves as if it's a rite of passage. But no, this is much more serious than that. The statistics, of course, we talk about sometimes. It ranges, but 13 million kids across the country are bullied. And the latest statistics is that, somewhere between 44 and 5,000 kids commit suicide each year in this country alone because they feel alone, because they don't have the tools, the language to navigate it, and often because they don't believe adults around them are going to respond to their call. And I think that setting that climate is such an important message to parents who drop off their kids and are wondering, are they going to be safe because I don't see them? Are teachers going to be looking out to make sure that they intervene? And so there's these concerns are always there, and sometimes it's not as evident. And so we recognize the issue, and this guide is extremely popular among teachers. And what we begin to do is to prepare kids to watch the film. And there are two versions, like Marty mentioned. There's the original version, and there's one that's about 45 minutes that only centers on two characters in the film. And I think that that's really geared towards perhaps middle school in particular. But you could be the judge of that for your particular school. On page 7 is things. How do you create a safe environment for your students and a classroom? That becomes a very important way to enter the conversations. In fact, just the definition of bullying, which is defined on page 12, it's really important because kids understand bullying, but they also understand that it comes in so many different forms. They know about cyberbullying, but they also have to know that the impact of that could be physical, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's verbal, it's social ostracism, and it permeates and just in so many circles in the school community. The other thing that's really important when entering and beginning to decide that this is an issue the school wants to tackle is to really find the people who say, it does exist. You have to hear those voices. You have to have honest conversations. I was at one school where some teachers didn't believe it was such an issue. Others said, well, I see it sometimes, and I'm afraid for my kids. Most kids, of course, know it because they're the ones who are the witnesses of this. It doesn't usually happen in front of an adult. And like the film, we saw sometimes administrators don't necessarily have the approaches to deal with it. And parents, of course, the impact of parents worrying about their children, more or less their education, just their safety becomes so important in terms of how the school is viewed as a place where they go every single day. To recognize that is to really to have voices where kids can begin to say that yes, it does exist. Teachers to talk about what they witness as well. Administrators sometimes, they in their offices are dealing with this issue so many times, but teachers don't know what's happening in the offices of administrators. So there's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding, but it's the perception of the person, and perception is reality. And so unless you have a place where people come together and recognize the existence of this phenomenon, only then can you be very strategic and intentional about addressing it. You know, the importance of student voice is so important, and we recognize student voice, and that's what Facing History and ourselves does, is to help create an environment where students can take ownership and begin to talk about difficult issues that they're confronted with every day. And having kids take on the role of having their voices shared and their stories shared become a very important message to other kids. You know, it's really interesting that, you know, when kids talk to kids, the impact of that message often is much more stronger than when an adult speaks to a student, especially when it comes to, you know, intervening and saying that's not right. So student voice, kids have to know that they do have a role, that they do have choices, and not to put themselves in risk, they discover that there are ways to be involved in safe ways. So I think that the pre-watching of the film is an important element before you actually see the film. And there's also the language is so important. Kids understand the role of the bystander, the perpetrator, the victim. And let me just say one thing about the role of those who bully. In some instances, sometimes if you really dig deep, you may discover in some cases that those individuals too are bullied in other settings, that they too are victims. And so just to sort of label is a very difficult thing. I use it really as a verb. This is really an action. It's a choice. It's a behavior. And when kids know that that's not part of their identity, they understand it's not their best self. And when you can say that and you know it's a choice, then that's more easily dealt with than if it becomes part of your identity. When kids see the film, I know that when we did this in Los Angeles and Lee Hirsch was there, we had over 7,000 students in a large theater downtown to watch the film, and it was so quiet. And I remember when there was the audience was applauding at a really wonderful moment. I turned to Lee, and Lee was saying they get it. The kids really get it, and they did. This film is so connects to kids and their lives and their experiences that they watch it and they see themselves, they see others, they see similar situations, they recognize it, they're very familiar with this phenomenon. Whether it takes place in a rural area or in an urban center, it doesn't matter. Bullying exists. And kids begin to understand the dynamics that they too are dealing with in their own school community. Having a small focus group of kids to watch the film beforehand so they can be part of the panel for discussion is critical. Debriefing this film is so essential. You cannot responsibly show this film and say, okay, we've done our work. Kids walk away and maybe they'll somehow, remember something that's important. It doesn't work that way. Having an honest conversation about what struck them most about this film, what does it remind them of? How is it different or similar to their own community? And for kids to become when we've done this with students, it's amazing. Some of the most quiet students now have voice and feel that they have the responsibility to share a very personal story. And again, when those conversations are facilitated in a safe, reflective environment, it's amazing what stories are told and how kids are listening and beginning to build this empathy for others. It happens in those conversations. The panel should also reflect the audience. If you ever have, for example, parents and students and teachers in a room to see the film, make sure that the panel comprises of members of each of the stakeholders. It's quite complex. This phenomenon impacts different stakeholders differently, and having that understanding is really important. But if you have an audience and it's just kids, let the kids begin to reflect their own messages and experiences around this. getting parents involved is really an important role as well. A number of the middle schools in which we did this project, they actually created an evening where parents would come together. And this was after the faculty was introduced to the film and having a conversation about it, where all the students of the school community had an opportunity to see the film, to talk about it, debrief it, and have a panel discussion, and administrators to see it as well. They brought parents together in the evening. And at one school, we had over 300 parents, many of whom spoke Spanish. And the school invested and brought interpreters from the district to come in. They had the headphones, and they actually translated the movie for parents. And we thought, what would parents take away from this? And we put together a pamphlet on conversations about the movie, but it's really to give parents discussion prompts or conversation starters. So because they knew that their son or daughters watched the film, they know the teachers watched it and the administrators, they too were going to have a conversation on that Friday because they were there Thursday night to watch the film. And so these conversation starters, and it's just amazing how many parents shared stories of their past when they were victims or perpetrators of bullying. And I think that, again, when there is this common experience that we're all familiar with, whether we're the victim, whether we're the perpetrator, or whether we're a bystander. And in most cases, we've all been one of those. And I think to some extent, and I think that when we begin to have these honest conversations with parents and teachers, that's what culture building is about. It's what common language, a common recognition, and an approach to saying that this is comprehensive. It's just not about me. It's you. And giving kids a sense of ownership. It's amazing how kids just, after these summits that Marty shared, they wanted to do a project. They wanted to take this school-wide. They thought creatively, how do I get the other kids in my school involved? Because not everybody went to the summit, just a handful of kids. But the handful of kids, they thought of very creative ways of sharing this with the entire group. I just finished a group with leadership kids at one school decided they wanted an assembly for ninth graders. And so they did a skit. Then we showed the film, and then I had kids on the panel, and every single ninth grader at that school had an opportunity to have a very deep and meaningful and impactful conversation around this phenomenon. And when you open it up to the audience, it's really amazing how kids speak up on this issue. And at the end, when I debrief with teachers, they'll say, you know what, this kid never says anything. But there's something about this that allows kids to have voice. They feel that they're safe, and they want to make a difference. And I think that what this guide does, it gives kids permission to be good. It gives them examples of ways to be engaged, ways to create a better place for their education, and recognizing less about the incident, but the impact of this incident of bullying and what it has in the lives of individuals and families, and even the disruption of education. So these are just a few of the things that we've been doing in Los Angeles. It's very exciting, and more schools are beginning to ask about ways in which we can bring this. Some schools, they will not start the school year because they're going to set the culture norm with this film. Every student who comes to the school is going to watch this film. They're going to debrief it, and they're going to understand. Like one of the schools that we work with, you'll ask any kid, they say that we don't allow bullying to happen in this school. Kids are saying this. And it's really amazing when kids set that culture. It's a powerful, powerful way to foster that empathy.
I would also just want to kind of piggyback on a couple of points that Dan made. He's referencing the Facing History Guide to Bully, and just some specific tools that he mentioned was, one is in the preparation for the viewing. There's a great page that's really how to create a safe and reflective environment, which is really creating a community contract. That can be done in a classroom setting. It can be done in a screening with community members, parents, and many of you are probably familiar with different ways to create those community contracts, but it really does have some tools and suggestions for how you can go about doing that. really just contracting with the people in the group to have that safe and open and honest conversation, and what do people need to be able to do that, to make sure that they're listening with respect, so that people feel safe and empowered to be able to speak up and know that people are going to respect what they have to say. So I just really wanted to point that out. And also just to recognize that sometimes people are resistant to really even dealing with the issue, as Dan mentioned. And it's okay to recognize that it's a complex issue and that we don't all have all the answers. And I think that can really help put people at ease a little bit as well, to just recognize that the value in the conversation and having a productive conversation is so critical, and really to acknowledge that for people. And to define bullying, it's interesting when we've had some of these screenings and conversations and then had asked people to think about their own schools. Every once in a while you hear people say, well, bullying's not really a problem on our campus. And so you kind of push that conversation and, well, what do you mean? What are some concerns that are going on at your school? And there may be different terms that people are using. It may be more issues of ostracism that are of concern. It might be that there is what they might call drama. So there might be different labels for some of the behaviors that you're really trying to get at. So I think that's another part of the preparation and part of really thinking about how you want to bring this to a school. And there's another reading that is not for maybe every school, but I just wanted to point out, and it's called The In Group, and it's a reflection of a young girl named Eve Shalin, who was part of what you would think was a very homogeneous group at an independent school, and so their issues were around ostracism, and so that's just another way to open up a conversation about what are some of the issues that might be coming up at a school. So those are just some of the things that are in the preparation for the screening, and Dan also referenced the bios is another thing in a classroom. If say you're at a school and we're going to have the screening for the whole campus, but you're going to, as the teacher, be in your own classroom, you could take a look at the bios or the stories that are featured in the film as a way to prepare and get to students to think about what they're going to see, and also just to let them know that it's a difficult film and that it's okay if they have the emotions that they have, and thinking about how you're going to support that. And then one other resource as far as a post discussion that I would point out is a reading in the guide that is around upstanders and bystanders. Again, sort of, you've introduced that language of behavior, not of people, but when people behave in ways that stand up for others, and a reflection of a young person who saw the film and it just made him think a little bit differently about a situation. And a lot of times what we'll see is it's not only how people are reacting to the bullying they see, but they're reacting, or the students are thinking about, what can I do when I see someone who may be vulnerable, when there's someone new on a campus, and just the small acts that have such power. And they have had an opportunity to be asked about what some of those things are and what they can do. So I think, Dan, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else. We probably want to sort of wind down so people, if they have questions.
Yes, I just wanted to underscore your point that the impact of bullying. Sometimes schools, when they really look at the school culture, they may sense homophobia. It could be ethnic or racial. It could be a gender. So understanding where these are ostracism, understanding the culture of the school will give you ways to enter the conversation more strategically. But it is an honest recognition that these things do exist. And whether they exist in a small way or a large way, they need to be safe schools need to be safe for all students.
I know that there's maybe Lee or someone from the Bully Project will talk about the new version of the kit that's coming out that I know has a lot of resources. And at Facing History, we also have resources, including where you can download the guide, and that's at facinghistory.org, using /bully-classroom, including some of the clips from the film and resources for teachers. So thank you all for listening. I hope this was helpful, and we're very happy to answer more questions about some of the things that we've shared.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was really, really fantastic. It was so beautiful to hear Dan talking about the event with the 7,000 kids, and just brought me back to, being in that room and being so completely moved. And I think when we knew that the number was going to be as big, that many students in one room, I think we were all a little terrified, and it was so amazing to be there. And as Dan said, you could really hear a pin drop until the kids started cheering for Alex, for Kelby. It was completely remarkable. And when I think about that event, I always think about what's possible, and what people have created, the events people have created around the country, the incredible convenings. And it also reminds me that, we do hear from people, and this sort of is going to lead into my a question that we actually got in advance of the call. But, as we think about what we've been able to do, we also hear from people that get shut down a lot when they want to do an event around the film Bully, when they want to hold a convening or get professional development time to really address issues of school climate. And that resistance comes in, and often it's from administrators. Do you guys have any advice for, folks on the call of, if they're wanting to create something bigger, to create a summit, to create, that screening time for adults first, what advice do you have to kind of make that live in the face of someone that says, we don't have time for this, we're doing fine?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. In fact, one of the things that was really helpful is when a teacher is interested and says, I recognize this as an issue, and this came out in the summit, and they wanted to bring it back. She made sure she invited one of the school administrators to be there. But, there wasn't a lot of buy-in from the faculty. To be honest, during the faculty meeting, there were many faculty members who were quite resistant. But she, of course, had some colleagues. She had the leadership teacher who she was friends with. And he didn't go to the summit at all, and he wasn't aware of Facing History, but he certainly had the leadership kids. And so she worked with her classes, the leadership kids, and before you know it, she was doing this whole school-wide project where kids were beginning to do these posters around anti-bullying messaging around the entire school. And then before you knew it, kids were asking about it. Their teachers then had to sponsor one for those students in their classrooms. It's just amazing what just a handful of people can do to really get that going. But if you have that seed, there's really no reason why you couldn't. And sometimes there are parents who are very concerned. They want to know, what can they do? How can they support? Bring parents in to have that conversation with a few teachers and a concerned administrator. It doesn't take the entire school, but it does have a way to begin to find its way into the hearts and minds of everybody in that community because of the message that everybody recognizes needs to be addressed.
Awesome. I want to just remind everyone that we are open for questions, so please press *6 if you have a question now, and we'll be able to see you on our back end. So again, that's to hit *6, and you'll be able to ask your question. In the meantime, we had another question that came in over email from Lizzie in Tennessee, and she wants to know, what kinds of things should school be most careful about when deciding to screen bully?
Well, it's to screen the film, I think it's really important that there are two versions. And I think you need a focus group. You need teachers and students, maybe one or two teachers, a couple of students, maybe in different grade levels, to watch that film together. Let them have an honest conversation about which of the films would be most appropriate. I've discovered, though, in this work, the middle schools really gravitate towards that 45-minute version.
Yeah.
And high schools go for the larger version, but that's not always absolute. But before you screen it, be familiar with it. But this is a film that they have to see in its entirety. This is not about taking a clip here or a clip there. No, you're going to devote the time to watch the entire film. The narrative is powerful, and it really highlights the impact that this is having on so many lives.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. So we actually
Can I
have...
ask a question?
Yes, of course. So is this we have a 415 area code?
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. My name is Saul. I'm an up-and-coming rapper from the New York area, and the first rap song I hope to be coming out with is an anti-bully rap. It's called "We Got Your Back." I really want to get this song out across as far as I can get it. I want it to be like a big popular hit, if not on YouTube, but possibly more websites and all that. And I wrote it when I heard I think it was Tyler Clemente, the night after Tyler Clemente committed suicide. It's a song that really has lyrics that literally hit home. And I don't even think I'm going to make money off this, and I don't care if I do. I've been spending money in the studios. How do I get this publicized? Like, how do who do I talk to if I want to, get help possibly getting word out about this video? Maybe if I have to pay a little money for it, I'll do it. Who in the Bully Project should I talk to about this?
Good. Just email us at info@thebullyproject.com, and we'll follow up with you after the call. And good luck, and thanks for doing that.
Okay.
Cool.
So we have a question now coming from a 415 area code.
Yeah, that might be me, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. So my question is, I'm a marriage and family therapy intern, and my supervisor and I showed both versions of the film actually to anti-bullying groups that we have at a middle school in Berkeley. And they were very touched by the film, but they also didn't feel like it represented what was going on in our school because there was so much of a focus on physical bullying. And there seems to be a lot more issues with cyberbullying and kind of the more relational stuff at our school, according to them. And we kind of were just like, oh, okay, and didn't really know how to follow that up. So I know you guys mentioned working, finding out what the issues are, but then how do you adapt the discussion of the film, or what pointed questions would you ask to kind of draw those connections even if the film isn't fully representing what's going on at the school?
That's a great question, Ashley. Thank you. It resonates. It's something that we have heard before, where even folks have said, "Well, we don't really relate to the stories or the people, the sort of the situation of the people in the film." But bully is a real springboard for conversation. So, to really think about what are the essential questions or the framing questions that you want to shape to lead into the conversation that's going to help people make connections to their own school or situation. Dan, it looks like you might want to chime in on something.
It is the world in which many of these kids are familiar with. Yeah. And I think that conversation about what is bullying, I know that often they do go to the physical, but there is this repeated hurtful rumors. There's hurting people's reputations. There is that, targeting certain folks on the Internet. I think that if they know that the Internet is only one tool, just like your hands can be a tool or your mouth can be a tool for bullying, they understand the wider issue about protecting human dignity and safety. And there's different ways in which people can disrupt that. And, of course, in this world of cyberbullying, that empowers the person because they're anonymous and they feel that they can continue to do that. What they don't understand is the lasting impact of that. And so it's worth having a conversation about that. But I think that really should come from the kids. I think when kids can make the connection and they talk about it, that's when it becomes recognized. It's not the teachers or the administrators saying, you got to stop this when you go home. No, kids have to share stories about this. And it's painful, but it's more painful if it's not discussed. And it's kind of like the silent, threat that nobody seems to worry about because it's not in our face. It's only between the perpetrator and the victim. And I think that to give legitimacy to this issue, have a conversation around what bullying is and recognize that it comes in many different forms. And in this world today, kids will recognize and understand that cyberbullying is very much a part of it.
Yeah, I think you also it raises a conversation around relationships and friendship. In the film you see the absence of friends and the presence of friends and the impact of both of those things. And I think that's another entry point for connections that everybody can relate to.
I just want to chime in too that maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about the Bully Project Educators DVD and Toolkit. I'm sure some of the people on this call have it. This is the kind of set of tools and resources that we've created and curated to help educators successfully bring the film into their schools, both as a tool for professional development and for working with their students. And we've been working really hard on the second edition of this kit, which has got lots of fantastic improvements. One of which we're really excited about is in the first version, you found the Facing History Guide on the flash drive, and in this version, it will be printed in full as part of the kit, so you'll have it right in front of you. As well, there are resources there from another great partner of ours called Common Sense Media, which is a toolkit for addressing cyberbullying in the schools and teaching about it. So it does come up. I think, relevant here is that, your kids are talking. What they see on the film might not be exactly what they've experienced or the form and shape of what's going on in their school, but the emotional landscape is similar, and the feelings that will come up in the conversations are a great jumping off point to really explore this with your students. So we encourage everyone to get this kit. It's super affordable thanks to foundations that have supported our work. It's $35. It comes with the feature version of the film, the kids version of the film, as you've heard discussed, and a ton of other great resources to help you think about school climate, school culture, bullying, and really how to kind of get into this work and make it live in your school community. So I think we have another question.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you guys, though, before that I do that, if you guys, if you have a call, just press *6. Once again, that's *6. I'm sorry, if you have a question. I have a question actually that came from Tim. We got it in via email, and it's actually more just like an inquiry about, for Dan, wondering, can you describe one example of a school screening that was particularly successful, and why was that?
Yeah, one example I'll never forget was at the Torres campus here in East Los Angeles, where kids went to see the film, and they decided they have a little open amphitheater outside, and the kids were there, and they had some music, and then it was really to debrief the film that they saw. And what I remember most is when we started to talk about it, we had a panel, but then some kids from the audience had something to say. And there was one young man that came up, and he took the microphone, and he basically was ashamed of the things that he did, and he told everyone that he was ashamed, and he apologized in front of everybody, but he went beyond that. He says, that I'm in a group of other people that do the same thing. You guys. He didn't mention names, but he says, you guys know, because we all did this. And I think that when something like that happens, it's when students proclaim something that's an important message, and when they share it with peers, as I said earlier, that resonates. That is so powerful a message, peer-to-peer. Because sometimes, kids expect adults to reprimand them or to say what to do and what not to do. But when kids do it, it's heard differently. It has a different meaning. That's ownership of behavior. And that's basically saying that we recognize this. And I think to have a forum where all the kids witnessed this was a powerful moment. Then we had other kids who came up, and they just felt that they could share that they cut themselves, nobody knew about this, and that they didn't have one friend. Not one person came up to them. And I think that and many tears, I'll say many tears. But that emotional engagement is critical. That's the stuff that sticks. That's the stuff people remember. It's the stories. And providing a forum for that is one of the most powerful ways to impact the entire school.
That's really helpful. One of the things I just want to chime in too that I've seen really provoke and inspire the staff component of the screening is, and it's highlighted in the kit as a kind of exercise opportunity, is to do something called relationship mapping after the screening with the adults. So you have your school staff together. Hopefully that includes teachers, administrators, school support staff, bus drivers, as wide a sort of grouping as possible. And then what you do is you put the name of every student, and it's either by grade or by the full school, up on a wall, and ask those adults to identify the students that they have a meaningful relationship with, that they know what's going on in their lives, that student might come to them, and sometimes you get like little things of blue dots, and you go and you send them off to, mark up that list. And when everybody steps back, you can really see who has absolutely nobody that they're connected to. And then that's a jumping off point for a really meaningful conversation together as a team to really say, like, is this okay? Can we do better? How can we do better? How do we make a plan to get those students connected? What would it have meant when you were in school if you did or didn't have, an adult in that school that you felt had your back? And those are the kinds of things that I think are really important to do connected to the screening, to roll off of that emotional experience into action is really important.
Great. Well, thank you, Lee. We have a caller right here. We have a caller lined up from a 505 area code. Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, this is Gary.
Oh, hey, Gary.
From
How are
New Mexico. I'm good. I just wanted to throw out a suggestion if because we get a lot of messages about how schools may not participate in wanting to show the bully movie, or they try to avoid the whole subject of bullying in the first place. And a couple thoughts that I had that may help is that, the parents and the students can start their own program after school, or if you look on the bully page, you could see how to host a screening or have a home viewing party. And those are ways you could do something outside of the school and have students participate and have parents participate. And eventually, what I encountered here in Albuquerque is that a couple students did a program on their own, and the news started getting involved in stuff, and then all of a sudden the schools started getting involved. They saw the students take an initiative, and then the schools stepped it up and wanted to participate in what the students were accomplishing. So it's just a suggestion for people who feel like the school will not, participate. It's an ideal that you could do something outside after school or something.
That's a great suggestion. And I think sometimes it is about building key partners or collaboration and some momentum. And while I think we agree, we would love for all schools to embrace this issue and deal with it very coordinated in the whole school. It shouldn't suggest that there's not value in if it's even a class or a small group of people that are making that effort. Is still absolutely worth doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gary and Marty. We have actually another caller here now from 519 in Windsor. Can you introduce yourself and ask your question, please?
Hi, yes, my name is Rachel Pipitone, and I'm actually a professor of early childhood education, and I've used this film quite a few times for my school-age development class, and the reaction from my students who are going to be future teachers was unbelievable. And so they have inspired me to move forward with this in our community because, really there is not a bully project here. So I'm kind of taking this on with them. Yes, and that's exactly what I'm doing because, I've always kind of wanted to, but this film inspired me, and then their reaction made me want to move forward. So my question is, what specific suggestions do you have to make a first-time, more community-wide screening of Bully successful? Because this is a very small community. It's a good community, but I do think there might be a little bit of resistance. So I just want to make sure that it's the most successful it can be, because really I have nothing to compare it to here, because we don't really have anything else like this here.
Yeah, just to suggest that sometimes if you look at the history of the community and other similar events that have brought people together, sometimes the venue is an important place. It suggests sometimes a lot. Sometimes everybody is associated with the school because their families have gone there. So the school is looked upon as, this is a great, safe place to come together. So the venue becomes very important. Also, who's co-sponsoring this?
It will actually be the city and also the college that I work at.
That's great. And the more partners you have that are visible in supporting this, I think there's entry for more people to be a part of this conversation and to recognize that this is going to be an honest conversation about an important issue that impacts all of us. I think, that kind of sort of preparation and messaging is important so that people feel that this is a safe place to go, but an important event not to miss.
Yeah, and I would say, think about what you want to have as the next steps after the community screening. And you may not have all the answers, but maybe you're with a group of the stakeholders or the community partners that are kind of already thinking about what are some of the tools or opportunities so that immediately following the screening, people do feel like they have a next step. Whether it's
Yeah, and Marty is talking about some community events that we've had. Every community event, somebody says, they come to the staff and they say, what can we do or how can we get involved? And you can find future partners in that event as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think we have about enough time for another question or two. I'm going to go to one. So if you like to ask questions, press *6. But I'm going to go to one that we got in via email from Mary, and it was, what can school administration and teachers do to ensure that the conversations following the bully screening carry over into the home or into the classroom for the long run?
Yeah.
Well, I think that you could certainly try and encourage and invite parents to be part of the screening. You can come up with some discussion questions. That, Dan had mentioned that earlier, that even if the parents hadn't seen the film, there are ways for them to ask their kids about what they saw. And I think one of the best entry points for adults is really just to ask all of us to think about a time when they were in that situation, because I think just about everybody can remember that. And so for them to share, start the conversation by sharing one of their own experiences to get their kids talking. And there's, there are a number of questions that you can come up with, I think, to give parents and encourage them to have those discussions. And then there are other resources as far as connections to literature in the classroom and content that Facing History has worked with. That's, again, sort of going back to the beginning of the conversation and the themes that we deal with, whether it's a historical case study or a work of literature. There are ways to make those connections ongoing. And again, with the creating a safe and reflective classroom and giving teachers tools to really navigate those difficult conversations, that's where those kinds of things can be supported and continue to be dialogue. And then listening to the kids, because kids will come up with ways that they think that it should continue.
Yes, and sometimes schools already have structures where or schedules where parents do come for orientation or a back-to-school night, and sometimes those are paired with a program of some sort. There's a way to get parents involved within the schedule of the school's year to be aware of this film as well.
That's awesome. I think too, we've seen, and it's been very encouraging, schools look at utilizing bully not as a singular action, but as a multi-year commitment. In fact, we have, Salt Lake City took, 15,000, something like that, students to see the film, but made, a multi-year commitment for incoming ninth graders. And so, that if it can be framed in that way, or that kind of buy-in can be achieved, that gives you a great opportunity to enroll students working together with adults to be part of that planning committee. So that for year 2, students are leading the conversation. Students are thinking about, how to actually make it something more meaningful together with adults, or how to take school-wide action. We've seen, schools do things like spontaneously organize a walk through the community, or real community action, real school-based action out of these events. So I think any opportunity that you have to kind of deepen the meaning, deepen it as a tradition, can become really powerful. Have you guys seen any success in that way? Like schools kind of saying, okay, oh, that was great, let's do it again next year, or is that more me being optimistic, or?
Oh, no. This is about building on what they've done. The impact for this first year is so welcome. They're beginning to think the future. They're thinking about the kids who are going to be coming in next year already. And they want to make sure that this is, again, a common experience. They want to set norms, and they want kids to have this as an open issue that they talk about. And before you know it, that will become the culture of the school. It will have the reputation of being a safer place. Now, of course, the bullying issues, they may never disappear, but they don't have to happen in the frequency in which many times they do. And kids are looking for those tools and ways in which they can respond. So schools are looking at this as culture building, and they're looking at the future.
That's awesome. Well, I think that about wraps us up almost to the hour.
Do you guys have any closing remarks that you'd like to say?
Just to thank you for inviting us to be part of this call, and it is in the spirit of the ongoing work with this film, but it isn't just a kind of a one-shot deal, but really such a rich opportunity to continue the work to give kids the tools and language, and as adults support them in prevention and creating more compassionate and safe places for them to go to school and to live their lives beyond the school walls.
Well, thank you guys so very much. This has been awesome. And I'm sure, like I can speak for everyone that joined us, we really thank you as a community for your work, for your commitment as educators. It's I cannot say enough about how extraordinary Facing History and Ourselves is. Educators, please get on their website. They're such an incredible resource. Chances are, they have staff near you. And if they're not, I'm sure they'd be willing to help as well. Can you guys just talk a little bit about how to work with Facing History?
Sure. So we do have offices in 8 cities in the United States. So if you're near an office, then you have closer access to staff. We're primarily doing professional development with teachers, so they can come to our workshops. We have free community events for all community members, as well as seminars. And if you don't live near an office, we also have a North America project, which includes Canada, where people can access our staff via online ways. So you could go through an online training, or you could travel to a face-to-face training, but then get that follow-up support from staff by email, telephone. All of our resources can be downloaded for free from our website, all the print resources. And teachers who go through our seminars also have access to, like I said, our coaching support, as well as our library of resources. And the website's got places for conversation. I'll just put in one other plug for the Los Angeles blog, which is called the LA Network, facinghistory.org/LA Network, where we have online discussions around some of the issues we've talked about tonight, including tonight we have a blog around the conversation we had today.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was really informative and incredible. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. For everyone else, I'd just like to thank you as well for being on the call, and I'd like to remind you all that our Speak with an Expert conference call series continues next week at 7 p.m. We'll be joined by Marianne Monala of Engage Network, who will be speaking on grassroots organizing and outreach. We're very excited about the call, so we hope you will join us. And we'll speak with you next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Bye,
the great
everyone.
question.
Thanks, everybody.